So this is definitely, I mean, troubling information. It's good to see this analysis. And as I was mentioning, there in the article, some great insights by our guest, Reverend Clark Williams. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Reverend Williams from Shiloh Baptist Church here in Lexington. If you want to recap some of the kind of the thoughts you had shared in the article, but what's your take on this information that was put out Sunday?
Well, it's disturbing, but not surprising. I think a lot of people, particularly a lot of Black people and others who really pay attention to how policing is done far too much of the time. Not that all policing is bad, but too much of the time, it gives way to two different ways of policing. We're a state that is 8.1% African American, but yet 27% of the possession charges are African American. 42% of all the trafficking charges, African American, in a state that's 8.1% African American. Then you get to a place like Lexington. I haven't seen the Louisville figures. I won't speculate as to what I think they might say. But when you look at a city like Lexington, that's not quite 15% Black. For 61% of your trafficking charges and almost half of your possession charges to be against Black people, when the studies seem to indicate that Black people and white people and all people tend to use marijuana at about the same rate. So that just means the only difference is how people are being policed. And so consequently, this is not a surprise. This is not a shock. This is just really makes more apparent something that many of us already knew. And though there's no apparent disparity in the behaviors, there's an alarming disparity in how Black people are policed in Lexington and in Kentucky compared to how other people are policed. So this serves both as an example, as I think I said in the article, of why we need comprehensive police reform. And it also serves to illuminate why, when we start talking about subjective standards of how policing is supposed to happen, whether it's with no-knock warrants or in some other areas, whenever you leave the law to subjectivity of what is reasonable, unfortunately, what is reasonable does not give Black people the same level of protection as it gives other people. That's our reality.
Right. Look, so I saw that you have been kind of organizing with a group of Black pastors. What's the response been to your calls for some reform?
Well, we've been at this effort for police reform, as well as a call for more racial minority participation in terms of procurement with UK and the city of Lexington, Fayette County Schools, and now some of the private sector entities. But as it relates to this policing piece in particular, we've been, as well as the economic, we've been pushing, having calls to action since last June. Last June, we had some police reforms that we were calling for, as well as some economic inclusion that we were calling for and have continued to call for. The mayor, one of her responses was that she started a commission on racial justice and equality. And it had dozens of people on the commission, a lot of good folks, a lot of smart folks that did a lot of hard work. And they came back with, I believe, 56 recommendations. Well, the Black Faith Leaders Group, and for the most part, the folks that had been protesting and demonstrating, they were really looking at a permanent ban on no-knock warrants, been calling for it since last June, some stronger policy around police body-worn cameras, greater participation of civilians during the police disciplinary process, including working toward an independent civilian review board. That's essentially what the protesters, what the Black faith leaders have been calling for. And then we've also been calling for some economic inclusion. And so from those 4 to 5 things, there were then about 55 or so things that were recommended through the commission. And so far, as it relates to the police reforms, particularly with the no-knock warrants or the civilian review, we're still waiting. Now, with that being said, on April the 15th, we called on the council and the mayor to take some immediate steps toward permanent ban on no-knock warrants via an ordinance, and a permanent ban with no exceptions. We called on them to make immediate steps within 30 days. And within a couple of weeks of that, a little more than a couple of weeks of that, the city council's committee for planning and public safety voted 10-0 to move a permanent ban for no-knock warrants forward for the full council to vote on June the 8th. Well, it looks like it may be as soon as June the 8th, possibly, when they will vote on that. So, they voted 10-0. Certainly there are folks, and I wouldn't say folks that support the police, because that implies that some of us are against the police. It's not that I'm against the police, but we need better policing. And so folks that are, in this particular instance, on the same side of this issue as the police, they're emailing and they're pressing and trying to get the council members, even that voted, to take this to a full vote, to backtrack and to not stick with that vote and pass this particular legislation. But we're working in the other direction, and we do have a press briefing tomorrow, actually, where we're going to be speaking to this in more detail. So far, unfortunately, the mayor, in response to that 10-0 vote to push forward and have a full vote of the council on this and for consideration for passing an ordinance, and in spite of the fact that she put together a commission to look at this and other reforms, and the commission said that she needed to go beyond the moratorium that she put on, at the time, of the unrest, even though her commission says that it would be wise for her to move forward in support of this particular area, to side with the Black community on this. So far, she's been unwilling to budge.
Do you think that's because she's a Republican? I like to make sure everyone knows that, because we have these nonpartisan elections, and she was the runaway winner, but she is a registered Republican. So
well, you bring that up, and a lot of people don't realize that, and on the surface, being a political person myself, political strategist and the like, with People's Campaign and others, I would like to think that there's some benefit, just in terms of inherent benefit, to have a nonpartisan election sometimes. That maybe we could get beyond these D's and these R's and really look at issues for what they are. I would like to think that. However, what practice has shown is that people have a real difficult time sifting through what a conservative positions would be at the local level and what a progressive's positions would be at the local level, because those D's and R's are removed, and that part of the work is not being done for folks. It really, like you said, a lot of folks voted for Linda Gordon in a city that always seems to vote Democrat, as if they thought she was the progressive choice.
Well, she ran against police. I can't remember his name, the police commissioner.
He
literally said he literally said that he wanted to arm teachers. So I feel like she was the choice.
Did he say that? I missed that campaign promise. That seems insane.
Yeah, I followed that campaign pretty closely, and that one may have kind of been lost on me at this point. It's been water under the bridge. But even with that, we see that Linda Gordon is clearly listening to the sentiment of the police and not the sentiment of 48,000 or the vast majority of 48,000 Black people in Lexington. A lot of people don't realize that in a state like Kentucky that has very few cities, Lexington, Louisville, and then once you get past Lexington and Louisville and you go to Bowling Green and Owensboro, there are no cities in Kentucky that have 48,000 people. There are 48,000 Black people in Lexington, and there are tens of thousands of other folks that have been calling for and are seeking police reform. And so, Linda Gordon so far is not listening to that. So far, she's listening to the sentiment of the police.
And what's so you've clearly got a call for to kind of get rid of the no-knock warrants. That's been something we've heard a lot about this past year, obviously, and really an important step. What about marijuana? Do you guys have a legalization ask or decriminalization? Is there anything in the kind of recommendations that you guys have made that kind of looks directly at this issue of marijuana, or is it just more of a policing approach?
So far, we have stuck because we haven't, as an organization, sought to get in so many areas to where we can get off topic, or people will try to get us to focus on something other than. Right now, we have really just stuck with the police reform and the economic inclusion by way of minority business spend. But when we look at these horrific numbers, it just speaks to the need, certainly, to decriminalize marijuana. And because the reality is, if so many people are going to use it, the folks that are going to bear the brunt of the criminal justice system for use, the record speaks, it's going to be Black people.
Yeah, so clear. And I'll just say it. I think we should legalize it. I think we legalize it for recreational use, responsible recreational use, certainly medicinal use, and tax it. I mean, people are just going to drive, like Kimberly, taking her tax dollars to Illinois because that option is not available here in Kentucky. And absolutely, our farmers could grow it, and it's a win-win, and it is just an acknowledgement of what basically is already happening. Right. It's just one more thing that the police can use to go after the Black community that they're not going after the white community with that same,
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And I think it's time to change that. And I hope that, hope we can elect some leaders that are open to that. I know that there's like a legalization bill every year in session that never makes it very far. I think it's just for medicinal, but yeah.
Yes, medicinal. Yeah.
Doesn't go anywhere, and just sits there. So we need some leadership. Reverend Williams, thank you so much for joining us. I want to see if you have any final thoughts you want to leave us with about your kind of the work you're doing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Kimberly.
Yes, I had a question I would like to ask of Reverend Clark Williams. How you doing?
Hello, Kimberly.
My question is, there's a lot of controversy around this new Delta 8. Okay, that I'm sure everyone has heard of at this particular time. And it is 100% hemp derived, which we do have a lot of hemp farmers here in Kentucky, and I like to keep them in business. So the Delta 8 pen, it hits the receptors like Delta 9. Delta 9 being of a 96 to 98% THC coming from cannabis. Now, certain states are trying to buckle down on the Delta 8, although the Farm Bill says that hemp and any products from hemp are legal in all states. So this is 100% hemp derived, a hybrid that hits the same receptors in the brain, not giving you the paranoia and all these other things that people would complain about with the sister Delta 9. Do you think that we're going to be able to keep this in Kentucky, as I pray and as I hope?
Wow. Yeah, that's really a little bit beyond me. I haven't had a chance to really look at that on that level. You've got me now needing to Google and to do some research and to get a feel for a position on that. But that's a great question. Something definitely to take a serious look at. But yeah, at this point, I'm not prepared to really weigh in on that. I did want to say real quick though, also, if we could, in fact, if folks, you live in Lexington, if you can email the mayor, if you can email the council members, if you can email them and let them know that you support a permanent ban on no-knock warrants without exception, that will help our cause. The council, we had the votes, it would seem, don't want to speculate, but 10-0, they voted it out of committee. If we keep those votes, it passes. If we keep those votes, it even passes over a mayoral veto. And so if we can just keep the pressure on, there are other folks trying to make those votes soft by sending a lot of emails and calling them and telling them that they were wrong even to pass that out of committee. So if we can get emails out to the mayor, yes, but even more so to the council, that will be most beneficial in helping us push this over the line on June the 8th.
Can you speak to the fact that of how detrimental being arrested and for these crimes and or I don't want to say crimes, but how detrimental it is to the community? Because I feel like anybody who is arrested for marijuana, I think they have a couple of years of community service and just different things. It seems like the economic impact of this disparity is quite substantial.
Well, anytime you get charged with and convicted of a crime, then there's that whole reentry process. There's that whole process of not only the penalty that the law is prescribing, the sentencing, but then there's also the repercussions of when I have to check a box, or I'm having a difficulty with getting employed, and so these things create a cycle, where a vicious cycle where it becomes more and more difficult for a person to no longer be in the criminal justice system, to get off of that, off of that merry-go-round, so to speak. And so, it's just so detrimental. And we know that when there's speculation about what's reasonable and what's not reasonable, it always seems to be to our detriment. And so it's just so important right now, if we can get folks to chime in, to weigh in, to let their council members know, in particular right now. Certainly we want the mayor, but the council members especially right now, to continue to hold the course. We were 10-0, there are 15 council members. So really the 10 that voted to move the legislation forward are enough to not only pass it, but to override a mayoral veto. And hopefully we have some supporters among the other 5 that were not even on that committee. So we just have to be vigilant. We have to keep on keeping on and moving this piece forward. Because one thing we can't, the city will say, well, we only have had 5 no-knock warrants in the last 5 years. Well, one of those 5 was executed in error. They did a no-knock warrant and invaded the wrong home, put the wrong person in cuffs, and it cost the city $100,000. And not only that, what is totally missed is, yes, you very rarely use it, Black people in particular are traumatized by the reality of what happened in Louisville, as well as what happened in Lexington, where someone came into the wrong home. That person didn't happen to be Black, but still came into the wrong home. And we realized that if this is going to go bad, it's probably going to go bad against us. And so that's trauma that people are living with every night because of an unwillingness to concede something to the public that are seeking progressive police reform because of something that they may do 5 times in 5 years. The cost far outweighs whatever the potential benefit might be.
Absolutely.
I definitely saw, I don't know if it was a no-knock warrant or a knock warrant, but I live near Loudon Avenue, and it's an intense moment. There are several police cars. Some are unmarked, and they all go rushing. There's a helicopter buzzing around above. It's got to be intense. There has to be some kind of PTSD involved with that experience.
Absolutely. You relive those things, and you wonder if something like that may take place at your home. And that's something I believe that those who are inclined not to support this fail to understand. The mayor will say that what about a case of a hostage situation? What about the case of a kidnapping? Those are exigent circumstances that don't even, if they know that a person, if they have a basis for a person being in a hostage in a particular residence, a particular building, that someone has been kidnapped and they have evidence that person's there, that doesn't require a warrant anyway. That's an exigent circumstance that doesn't even require a warrant. So we're not talking about those things as being what typically generates a no-knock warrant. Generally, it is the presumption that there is some type of possession of some type of controlled substance. And so, again, we need folks to email council members, if you're a Lexingtonian, council members email at lexingtonky.gov. Council members email at lexingtonky.gov and share the sentiment before June the 8th that we're needing our council to stand on the side of progress in police reform by passing a permanent ban on the use of no-knock warrants without exceptions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend Williams. Appreciate your time and your information here and your perspective that you've shared with all our viewers. And yes, that is definitely going to be something that we encourage everyone to do, is that call to action, which I think actually Kimberly is going to kind of line us up with.
Great. Well, we appreciate you all. Thank you for having me, and appreciate all your help. Appreciate all you all do.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you, Aaron. Our call to action tonight is, if you are in the Lexington area, email your city council members to urge them to ban no-knock warrants ASAP. You do not want to be in a Louisville situation such as Breonna Taylor to get this taken care of. And if you think it won't happen, it can. So use this document to contact your community leaders and demand an ordinance. Here is an excerpt of it. I am writing to add my voice to the countless others asking for a ban on no-knock warrants in Fayette County. No-knock warrants have time and time again proven to be at best costly. Our city saw this firsthand in 2015 when it paid out $100,000 in damages to a citizen after the Lexington Police Department went to the wrong address. And at worst, deadly, as we saw last March here in Louisville, Kentucky with Breonna Taylor. So just personally from me to you, you do not want a situation like that. You do not want another mother losing her child or children due to police officers going to the wrong address or doing a no-knock warrant when they don't need to. And plus, I found out, guys, that normally they use no-knock warrants for those that are doing they're pedophiles and doing child pornography online, and they do the no-knock warrants so that that person, that suspect, will not, flush the information, destroy the information. But normally on other occasions, just normal occasions, even if they're going to a drug house, normally they do knock. So please, please tell your council people, your mayor, tell everyone that you possibly can that you want a no-knock, no more no-knock warrants in Lexington.